I'm so happy you guys are here today. It's beautiful outside. There's a different energy in here today, but I can tell that it's like there's something stirring. I can tell that like maybe it took a little bit to get out of bed today. Maybe it was Kelsey, you can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I just have this expectation today that God has something for each and every one of you. So I just want to introduce you to my friends. This is Kelsey, and this is Cass. And I'm already emotional, which I wasn't so much yesterday, so I already grabbed a Kleenex. You guys might want to do the same thing. But I'm just so grateful for these two women who are willing to share some of their story. Pastor Jonathan talked a little while ago about how our stories, our testimonies unlock something in the kingdom for other people. And so today, my prayer is that their stories will unlock something for someone in this room. Their stories are like your stories. And as I was preparing for this weekend, God gave me a word, and it was filter. And I thought to myself how often I go through my photos on my phone and I filter a photo, how I make it look a different way so that I feel better. And I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like God's asking us to be unfiltered. I feel like He is asking us to take a step in our faith and to own our stories. I don't know if you guys know a lot about me, but my story is not perfect. It's not beautiful. I walked through a devastating divorce and, and God has taken my unfiltered story and brought me here today. This is full circle for me. I sat where these women are sitting about 3 years ago and told my story really for the first time. And as I stepped into telling the truth and unfiltering my story was the moment that God catapulted me into my calling. And I'm so thankful for a church. I want you to know you are safe here. I'm thankful for our pastors who see an unfiltered story and look at it as a story of redemption and see calling even in those unfiltered and unpretty things. And so I want to get started today with these women so they can share with you about their story, the middle, and so they can share about a few things about what God has done through their lives. So we will start with Kelsey. Kelsey, welcome.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here today. Yes, let's give it up. Kelsey, would you just give us a little bit of a backstory about how you came to EC, how long you've been going here, and then let's hear a little bit from you.
Sure. Thank you. So my husband and I and our kids, we've been coming here for just about 2 years. We needed change in our life. We needed a church change, and we somehow ended up at EC. God definitely led us here. There's so many different ways that when we looked back, we could see, like when we almost bought Quincy and Mandy's van. Like, how does that even happen? I don't know. Anyway, so we ended up coming here to the North Campus and fell in love. We knew this was the church for us, and because of that, we knew we had to get involved. And so right away, we decided to do our next steps, and then completed that as well. So that'll lead later on into my story, but I'll take you back to 19-year-old Kelsey, just a baby, and I got married. Because that's the right thing to do when you're 19. Anyway, so my husband and I were very young, wishing the best for life, but our marriage was just extremely hard. I lived with a lot of loneliness. There was a lot of just kind of rejection I felt. I never felt like love reciprocated. Even though he did love me, there was just always doubt there for me. So fast forward 9 years later, 4 kids, it was really tough. We had our ups and our downs, but after struggling with postpartum anxiety for almost 2 years, I had nothing left to give. I didn't have any for my family. I didn't have any for my marriage. then I decided it was time. I felt like I was at that breaking point. I went and I got help. 6 months later, it was honestly by God's grace that I was back to myself. I finally felt hopeful for my life. There was breakthrough. Then I was devastated with the loss of my grandma. So this was the same year we started coming to EC. God was leading us up into this. I had just finished my medication. We ended up coming here, and then my grandma passed away. So I was starting to build community here. I had a solid place to come. And so we were going in. We finished next steps. We joined the team. I hadn't even served yet, and we ended up at team conf. I don't know. It was so fun. It was so good. I felt a little wrong going, but maybe that's... So anyway, I served at team comp to make it feel right. So that Friday night, I was in kids, and my husband was in service, and it was great. So we're on our way home. We're talking, telling each other about the night, and he looks at me, and he's like, Kelsey, during prayer, God healed me of something. And of course, my mind goes like, thank you, Jesus. Like, yes, I've been waiting for this. There's been like a healing from, like, and I thought of a list of things. You all know. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so he looks at me, and that's when he says, no, like, tonight God healed me of all the feelings I had and he named my best friend. Wow. And he carried on to confess to having been in an emotional affair with one of my best friends since when we had been dating. So in that moment, my whole world flipped upside down. I no longer knew who he was. I didn't know who my friends were. And I completely lost my sense of myself. So that was the turning point. I needed space. I needed time to think. I didn't know what to do. Our marriage was so rocky. We had talked about divorce prior to this. So this moment, I had that sense, like, here's my out. I've been waiting for a reason. I needed space. I went to Vancouver just to clear my head. And when I was there, God just showed me that he had a plan for Jesse's life. And it was in that moment he gave me a vision of my husband standing on stage telling his story. And it was a story of his healing and his redemption. And then it was also a story of the forgiveness in our marriage. And it was through that story, and God showed me, like, lives were changed. So when you're shown that kind of thing, and it goes against what you're feeling, especially when I wanted out. I wanted to be free. I wanted to feel like I could own my story, and I had to surrender it. But it was in that surrendering that God could rise up. And it was through that surrendering that he could heal me. It wasn't in the breaking of our marriage in the way that I wanted and I thought. Now, and like, this is my story, and I know other people go through very different stories. So filter it to how you need, because God spoke to me in a really clear way. Anyway, so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the in-between, because it didn't stop there. I was beyond angry. I had been betrayed by not just my husband, but my best friend. It was deep, and I had a lot I had to work through, and it wasn't easy, and it didn't happen quick. And I think a lot of us kind of feel like we have to get over things quickly, and we can't, and then we feel defeated that we can't. And I just want to encourage you all that it could be a process, and to remember that it's a season. It's not going to be forever, but there is growth and there is change, and there will be an end, even though you don't know when that's going to be. So what I did was I focused on that vision. I had to claim it, because if I didn't believe it, then I was working for nothing. The other thing I had to do was I had to surround myself with community. I found that community in the church. I met with some of the pastors here. They supported us, but then I also had friends, and I had to be honest. I had to tell them how I was feeling, what I was going through, and it was in that vulnerability that there was started to have that healing and that change. But the one thing I feel like I need to touch on is I was a mom of 4 very young kids. I had all 4 of my kids within 5 years-ish. Yeah, be shocked. Anyway, but as a society, like, we're constantly told, like, take care of yourself first, make sure your cup is full so that you can give out to others. And as a mom, you don't have that opportunity. And life didn't give me a pause. So I constantly felt empty. My cup was empty. And so I'm going to read to you from 2 Corinthians 12, 9 to 10. It says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." So when you're in those moments of feeling empty, those are the moments where God fills up that cup. You think, I have nothing left to give. I can't pour out. But somehow we do. And it's because God's grace fills us up in those moments of weakness. So, touching to the verse for this weekend, we are pillars. And as moms, like, we want to lay down sometimes, but we have to stand up. And that's our job, and that's our role, and we can do it. But we're not meant to stand as single pillars. So when we tell our story, when we open it up, what I have learned is so many people are going through similar things. We're all broken, we're all vulnerable, and we all can learn and love from each other's stories. But when we tell those stories, we stand united. Now we're a battlefield of pillars. We're not a single one holding each other up. So if I can impress anything onto you from what I have learned, and by no means is my marriage perfect, it's still hard, and there are still moments where everything just knocks me back down, and I feel it all again. But I am not a single pillar that got knocked down, tumbling the entire house down. I have a whole pillar of support around me, holding me up for those moments. And I was also, one last thing, I was ashamed of my story. And I think I'm not alone in that. I think there's shame in telling the truth and feeling like when my secret's out, people are going to look at me different. But what I've learned is that the more I tell, the more people look at me with strength and not judgment. So don't believe the lies that your story has no power and has no, God won't use it, because the purpose of my story was to be told. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kels, thank you. I just find it so beautiful because I know also that Jesse knew that you were going to share this story, and he was so supportive and so excited for you to share. And I'm just so thankful for both of you that you're willing to walk out this story alongside of us and to let us be pillars for you. So thanks for sharing, Kels.
Thanks, Jess.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a good word, like knowing that in order to be honest and unfiltered, we need each other. We don't just need each other. We need to allow people to be unfiltered. We need to provide safe space for women, for each other to come and say the truth. There's so much judgment that's out there, so much false perception, and I just encourage you guys to be safe places for somebody in your circle. And so, like Cass and I too, she's been a safe place for me. We have some parallels in our stories, but Cass, thank you for being here.
No problem.
Yeah, would you just give us a little bit of a backstory of how you came to EC,
Yeah, so I've been coming to EC for about 18 months now. I'm a single mom, 3 girls, have been on my own for close to a decade now, arguably. Yeah, and I guess part of my story is, I call it the series of unfortunate events, and it was like my token year, and I don't know, it seems quite common that when it rains, it pours, and for me, it was a series of events spanning over 2 years where, I'll just point form. Bring it. No filter, right?
Yeah.
Shortly after my husband and I split, I got pregnant on the pill, and with not my ex-husband's child. And 6 months after I had her, I lost my mom to cancer. 6 months after my mom passed away, the guy that I was with at the time decided to play scientist with drugs in the house with me and the kids. And he blew up the bathroom and the master bedroom with me and the kids in the house. Less than a year after that, my ex-husband was convicted of sexual assault on a minor and making and producing of child pornography. And similar to Kelsey, you don't get the luxury to process when you're a mom, like you are like single mom, or even just when life happens, you don't get the option to stop and process as things happen. And for me, it was just autopilot. And I ignored it. And I was like, no, this is fine. Like, I'm strong. I'm just going to keep going. And it wasn't until I started coming to EC where God was like, no. Like, it's time to let go of that. And for the longest time, I took my story and I hid behind it. And it was my wall to keep people out. Like, nope, I'm too much. I've been through too much. No one can relate to me. I'm just going to sit over here and not open up to anybody because nobody gets me. Yeah. And in that process, I was drowning in blame. And even though now I know that it wasn't my fault, in that middle, there was so much blame and shame that if I could put the blame on myself and feel in control of something, it would hurt less. Yeah. And it's not true. It hurts more. Right. And so coming back to EC and like even when I started Freedom, it's actually funny because Kelsey was in my Freedom group. Like I was so lost and far from truth. And like I grew up as a pastor's kid. Like if anyone should know, it's no. Everything that I thought I knew about God and about church was wrong. Right. And I came to Freedom and I was so lost in blame and shame and hatred towards myself. I think it was like the second week of Freedom, and we had to go around the room and say this like incredibly simple affirmation. And it was just an exercise, and I couldn't do it. Like I physically broke down, and it took me weeks before I could say it out loud. Like weeks. And so today, that affirmation, I am God's daughter, and He is pleased with me. And oh, take that, Satan. So in that, if I can transfer one thing to you guys, is that healing doesn't always mean pain-free. And no more rejection, no more anxiety. And that's what we hope for. But for me, what healing has been is in the midst of that, coming back to truth and who I am in Christ and being anchored in that in the midst of anxiety and rejection and shame and blame. And even though it still hurts and there's still waves of that, and I'm walking through this with my kids now and their abandonment issues, it's coming back to truth. And I think it's Psalm 139:14. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And that is like, I mean, like, guys, like, if I can be up here, like, come on. Like, don't isolate yourself and don't hide behind your story because it's not who you are.
Yes.
It's not who you are.
Yeah, that's so good, Cass. Thank you for sharing. Yes, so good. You know, I found an interesting thread through these women's stories, and the thing that I noticed at the start was that both of you had been in groups or involved in the team, and that was the point where there was like a lighter load for you. And so if you aren't on our team, and if you haven't joined a group, that's the best first step for you in getting involved here. Would you guys just one more time give these ladies such a big round of applause for sharing?